All right, so why don't you go ahead and fill in questions 1, 2, and 3. It looks like there's 2 3s on here. And then we'll go to the second number 3, which is use the co-function identities to evaluate. So we want to use the co-function identities and not the related acute angles, which are the angles going around our unit circle. So in order to get us started, we'll just take a quick look at a couple examples. So here we have the sine of 2 pi over 3. And yes, we can use the unit circle and we can find out what the sine of 2 pi over 3 is. But in this case, we want to rewrite this identity, or we want to, rewrite this ratio using a co-function identity. And then we can then use either one to evaluate, but right now we just want to rewrite it. So in order to rewrite it, in order to figure out what it is, we want to do a little bit of work. So the first question, first thing we'll do is we'll take a look at what quadrant it's in. So we know that the sine of 2 pi over 3 is going to be in quadrant 2. So if it is in quadrant 2, then what we know is that quadrant 2 is closer to pi over 2 than it is to 3 pi over 2. So anything in quadrant 2 is going to be closer to here than here. So that means our angle is closer to pi over 2. So what we want to do then is we want to rewrite 2 pi over 3 using the fraction pi over 2. So in this case, we know that 2 pi over 3 is going to be equivalent to pi over 2, and since it's in this quadrant, it's going to be more than pi over 2. So it's going to be pi over 2 plus some value. And luckily for us, we can remember our special triangles and know that if we add a half and a sixth, then we will get 2/3. So it's going to be equivalent to pi over 2 plus pi over 6. Let me write that. So if we add up pi over 2 and pi over 6, we'll get 2 pi over 3. I was able to do that math really easily in my head because I know that the pi over 3s and the pi over 6 are the opposite angles in the triangle, and so they're correlated angles. So I know then that my correlated angle is pi over 6. So in this, take a look, in this quadrant, I know that sine is going to be positive, and I know that my co-function for sine is going to be cosine. So that goes back to what we talked about on Wednesday. So then our last part is to rewrite the ratio using the co-function identity and the correlated angle that we identified. So we know that it's going to be cosine. We know that the correlated angle is pi over 6, and in this case we know that this whole expression is going to be positive. So we know that the sine of 2 pi over 3 is going to give us the exact same answer as the cosine of pi over 6. So why don't you go ahead and try B, and then you can come back and we'll take a look and make sure that everybody is on the same page.